And your name is?
Jeff Dunford.
Nice to meet you, Jeff. And are you an avid comic book shop goer? Or?
I come here every couple of Wednesdays to
Nice.
play board games and X-Wings miniatures.
So today you're here for the Star Wars miniatures, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So what got you into Star Wars miniatures in particular?
In particular, well, I grew up in the right generation to be a Star Wars fan by default, pretty much. And always liked Star Wars, but I was never too huge into comic books and the extended universe material. But recently, a couple of years ago, got into board gaming with my girlfriend, and we play all sorts of the kind of more modern board games. And then when Star Wars X-Wing miniatures came out, it scratched that miniatures gaming itch without being too complicated or too expensive compared to some other games.
Magic the Gathering.
Like Magic the Gathering or Warhammer or War Machine, those kinds of games.
Exactly.
And the miniatures are beautiful, and it's just fun to relive your childhood and play with these little toys that zoom around.
Involve Star Wars.
And involve Star Wars, and you get Darth Vader trying to shoot down Luke Skywalker and whatever. And,
so for the people at home, like, they also include, Darth Vader, like all the characters that we all love as well. But what you can also, about the gameplay aspect, you can also evade and other things.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of strategy to it. I mean, the combat rounds come down to rolling dice, and so people think, oh, it's just dice and it's just luck. But most of the game is actually trying to predict what your opponents are going to do, because you put down these maneuvering dials, and they're face down, it's secret information, and then depending on the pilot skills, there's kind of an order for how they get revealed. And you reveal these, and oh, look, I'm going this way. Oh, okay, well, I thought you might do that. I'm going this way. And so you're all trying to predict where everyone's going to go, because it's supposed to be kind of like in real time. If you're flying these spaceships, you've got to anticipate where your opponent's going to be and this sort of thing. So, and then there's also these actions, as you said, you can kind of focus, which improves your dice rolls or kind of mitigates the luck factor a little bit. And it's a lot of guesswork. And there's also a squad building aspect where you build your army and you try to play to its strengths and minimize its weaknesses. But there's no best squad. It seems that there's always, if you build a really good squad, I can always build one that's good against that one.
Exactly.
But then somebody else can build one that's good against mine, and it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors
So it's more like the actual, you have to actually think of all your decisions, and it's not just buying, I bought the Millennium Falcon.
Therefore I win? No, you're not gonna, just because you buy a couple of Millennium Falcons, you're not going to necessarily...
$30 here for the Falcon, and then,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good ship, but it has its weaknesses too, right?
Exactly, so there's still strategy.
Which is great.
What other board games do you recommend for our viewers out there?
Well, I got started. Well, when I kind of came back to board games versus my youth when I played, the simpler Hasbro and Parker Brothers type games. We got kind of addicted to Ticket to Ride a little bit, which is a very popular gateway game for that's kind of the Euro style games. And Settlers of Catan is another really good one that a lot of my friends really enjoy. And Carcassonne is one that I introduced to my parents, who are in their 70s, and they play it all the time and think that it's terrific.
That's awesome.
And we play that with them. And then we got into kind of more complicated ones. There's that are kind of more crazy and wacky, like Galaxy Trucker is one of my favorite ones. And it's a lot of fun. And
so it's a really interesting question, because we cover video games and we also cover board games. And why do you think, even though video games are so prevalent, why do you think people are still playing board games?
Well, in fact, I used to
video game, or even though there's not one or one or the other, but
Well, I used to play quite a bit of video games, and typical. I mean, it depends. Now it's a little bit different because there's a lot of massively multiplayer stuff.
Exactly.
But when I was playing a lot of video games, it was usually me at my computer, hidden away in my university dorm or whatever, playing games, and I'm kind of by myself for the most part. It's changed a lot since then, but still, it was kind of me doing my own thing for the most part. And then more recently, the reason I wanted to get into games was playing with my girlfriend, because it's face-to-face time. And you're actually interacting with someone who's right there. They're not on the other side of the world somewhere.
Exactly.
They're right in the same room with you, and you're playing, and you're having fun. And a lot of the games put more emphasis on just having fun and enjoying the experience. And maybe there's some strategy, whatever, but they're not that competitive. In fact, there's cooperative board games. Like good ones are Pandemic and Flashpoint Flyer Rescue are games that we play a lot, and you're cooperatively trying to save the world or save a burning building or whatever.
So it's not just one person necessarily competing with someone else. It's also there are also games that sort of bring everyone together.
Exactly.
And maybe that's, to get philosophical, maybe that's more of a bonding experience than if you're just playing WoW. We're not going to go into that and argue it today, but maybe that's why they've lasted so long. Board games and
and are actually probably more so now than in the past. There's a kind of a new resurgence,
new wave almost.
Of board games and designer board games. There are certain designers who are quite popular, and some people want to get that latest Stefan Feld game that just came out because he makes really good strategy games. And or the latest Vladish Fadil game from the Czech Republic. He's doing all these crazy games. That's like Galaxy Checkers, one of his games.
So for someone that's like, that's just started, like there's the Monopoly, someone that just plays Monopoly or Boulder Dash, like how do you recommend getting into more of these, games that they may not necessarily be more complicated, but they're a bit different from what they're used to. So how would you recommend someone making that transition?
There's a lot of information on the web. So BoardGameGeek.com is a forum that has probably the most information on board games out there, and just about any game you can research it. There's video reviews and just text reviews and things you can look at and ask questions. If you have rules questions, often the first place you go is posted on Board Game Geek. Somebody will give you an answer in 5 minutes probably.
So are there any other groups, like maybe locally in Ottawa?
That's what I was going to say too. And you can even find them online. You can kind of search. Meetups.com is a way of finding groups. So that's actually the comic book shop here is on meetups.com. You can find there.
That's perfect.
And so I found out about this group that gets together on Wednesdays, and there's another group around the city that get together on Wednesdays or Thursdays. You can pretty much find something any day of the week, to be honest.
That's impressive. Yeah, it's just people need to know about it. So that just takes some time. And do you still, what percentage do you dedicate your gaming? Like, how do you play more video games now or more board games?
I play almost no video games anymore.
Oh, really? Wow, so it's a complete transition.
Yeah, pretty much. I just find I don't have a lot of time. I mean, when I was in school, you have a little bit more free time with your friends or whatever. And so now it's more quality. I consider the board gaming time to be quality time with my girlfriend or maybe my family. I mean, for guys who are friends of mine who have kids, they play with their kids, and it's quality family time versus video gaming tends not to be so much, although, it can be, I guess.
Depending on the game. Okay.
Yeah, and so video games, I wish I had more time for them maybe, but on the other hand, I have so much going on that it's kind of taking a backseat.
Even though it seems like video games of like the last generation or two, they're sort of trying to make more action, more excitement in like a shorter frame. Because I remember RPGs back in like the Super Nintendo days, like Fire 2, you would spend 100 hours. Easily, most of that's leveling up, but now they seem to be wanting to make like a really good 4-hour game instead of like a 10-hour lengthy or longer game. So, so one last question: are there any message or like any sort of advice for someone that you've already recommended where to go, but do you recommend, like you mentioned a few games, anything else that you'd recommend for someone that's interested? Or
just go to your local gaming store. I'm sure there's a gaming and hobby store in pretty much every community, and you can go in there, and usually they're pretty friendly, and just ask what's going on. Hey, do you guys ever do open gaming? And some people, you don't even have to own your own board games. Just show up to the game nights. Chances are somebody has brought like 10 or 12 games, and you can try them out. And people.
And that's also, that's something really important, because people might think, well, I don't have the board game, so I should show up. But, people will always bring a board game along, and you can learn. And that's another great way of like discovering new board games. Just to show up. So I guess that's the ultimate message. Just show up, and everyone's been friendly. Everyone I met today was friendly as well, and everyone had a really good time. It seems so.
There's usually lots of gamers with plenty of games who just want someone to play with them. Or not that they don't always have trouble finding people, but I just mean chances are they'll be happy to invite you in and say, "Oh, this game plays up to 5." Yeah, sure.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
And hopefully I'll see you in the future.
Yeah.